Now, let me take this moment to address some of the common mistakes often made in IELTS speaking part 2. In the course of my teaching, I have had students say, I went to the examination, I did well, I believe that I said everything I needed to say, but at the end of the day, I ended up having 5.0. Well, the examiner will score you based on how you have said what you said. Because I often tell students, IELTS speaking is more about how you put your words together than what you know, how you structure your sentences, how fluent you are, how well you can flow. That is majorly what the examiner is looking out for. So, in part 2, some of you that have done the examination before or are in your training right now are aware that you often have questions of this form where you have just one question and some set of guides that comes underneath. Now, one of the mistakes that students often make is that they stick to the bullet. What are the bullets? The bullets are those three things that are under the question. Now, you don't need to stick to the bullet. Yes, the bullet is there for you as a guide to help you know how to answer the question, but you necessarily don't need to follow the bullet step by step. In fact, you can just pick one of the bullet and talk about it for 2 minutes because you're expected to talk for 2 minutes after you have been given the chance to go through the question for 1 minute. Another mistake that students make is that they don't focus on the topic. Some students become nervous and they feel like, okay, I want to address the bullet one by one. And in the course of that, they go off topic while speaking. And while doing that, your score is reducing drastically. Remember, you have just 2 minutes to answer this particular question. So, as long as whatever thing you're saying is in line with what you're asked, you are a step further. When you focus on the topic, it will help you to flow naturally, which is one of the marking criteria. It will also help your fluency. And most importantly, it will help your flexibility. Imagine looking at the bullet and answering the question at the same time. You're looking at the bullet and then you're trying to answer. That will make you too rigid and it will just distract you. You can also answer questions by, including your personal experiences as a short example. All the examiner wants to see is how you put those words together, your use of vocabulary, the way you structure your sentence beyond, whatever you think you know. So now imagine this particular question that I presented to you earlier. Describe a memorable journey you have taken. Yes, you can see your guide there, but my point here is you need to focus more on your topic. What is the memorable journey that you've taken? Let me tell you, one of the things that will help you to score a very high mark is your ability to paraphrase the question. Like when you want to give them an answer, your ability to be able to reward some of the keywords that you have in the question, or your ability to be able to structure your answer in a way that shows that yes, you have a very good paraphrasing skill. Like for instance, now, if I want to answer this particular question, I can start with something like an amusing journey I took was a visit to Ikogosi Resort in Lagos State, Nigeria. Oh, I'm sorry, Ekiti State, Nigeria. Okay, so you can see that I have replaced the word memorable with amusing because what makes it memorable for me was the fact that it was amusing, so I can reward it that way. That's just an idea of a good way to start. Already I have shown that I can paraphrase. Let me help you expand the starting further so that you can have a wide range of idea of what I am talking about. Question says, describe a memorable journey that you have taken, right? Well, an amusing journey that I took was a visit to Ikogosi Resort in Ekiti State, Nigeria. Although I'm not much of a traveler, but I was eager to see what I had been hearing about this unique place, especially the warm and cold springs. Now, what did I do in the starting? I started with paraphrasing, but I did not go off topic. And then I exhibited my fluency by stating that I am not much of a traveler, but I had a particular reason of going. So the most important thing is to be able to interpret your question and put your words together properly so that you can have about band 7 upwards. Now, to address this question, I'll give you a clue. Aside from just starting, I emphasized warm and cold springs, that I really, really wanted to see the warm and cold springs. Then I can now further describe the experience of the warm and cold springs that I saw. When I touched the water, how did it feel? What other thing amazed me at Ikogosi Resort? If you put those things together, where you're saying, it will help you to flow, rather than trying to like talking, looking at the bullet and talking, looking at the bullet and talking. No, that will be too rigid, and that could affect the score. So what I want you to do now is that you look at this question and try to answer and send to me in the comment section, or you just send your recording to the number that you're seeing on the screen, so that if there are any errors that I have noticed, I will be able to correct you. And to take your IELTS training, you can also send a message to the number on the screen. Thank you for joining me, and see you next time.